Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, MODOK Head Games, issue number 4 of 4. Listen, this was a really weak week. It was really bad. Weak, that was cute. But this was actually a good book. It wasn't like a great book. This wasn't, oh my god, game changing. But it was a really good book. I'm going to actually compare this to Vendidi's Hawkman. Hold, hold. Let's first talk about who made this comic book. All right, so Jordan Bloom and Patton Oswalt are the writers. Scott Hepburn on art, Carlos Lopez on colors, Cully Hamner doing the cover art and letters, VC's Travis Lanham. All right, and MODOK was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Love the little addition to that. There's a little thing at the end also where Bloom and Oswalt give joint credit to Kirby and Stan Lee. Well, mostly just Kirby. They don't. I don't think they even mention Stan Lee. They give a mention to Ditko, who had nothing to do with anything in this particular regard, and it's a weird thing, but whatever. Anyway, all of it is good, and it explains why I liked this series so much. Basically, MODOK is captured. I guess he unwittingly walks into a trap set by his father, his actual birth father, Alvin, and he gets pulled in, and the guy's trying to reprogram him because he doesn't care about the idea that he's his son. He just pulls him in. And he's like, "Yep, sorry, gotta go." Now, look, it ignores the one of the really cool things that we'd seen in the War of the Hulks um, was that there were multiple different bodies that MODOK would use, and he would just transfer his consciousness all the time. Whatever. Sure, that still works with this. It may be a little weird at first, but it still works with this particular story. I dig on it because this is the comparison I'm making with Vendidi's Hawkman. It drew from so much of the history of this character. Look, fortunately, MODOK is a character that wasn't used very often, and I'd be impressed if these guys could pull this off with like a character of Spider-Man's caliber. No, probably not. Or the Fantastic Four, any of the original characters who are good guys, right? But like, I wonder if they could pull this off with, let's say, the Leader or the Abomination. You know what I'm saying? Like, take a Hulk enemy and see what you could do with one of these guys. I think that would be impressive, and I would genuinely, honestly want to see that. Bloom and Oswalt admit to going back and finding every single thing they could find about MODOK, rereading them, and then they did this freaking 10 episode series. On the end of this, they say it airs on March 21st. That was a mistake by whoever was printing this or whatever. This was actually whoever made the mistake. Somebody made the mistake. I don't want to point fingers at who, but somebody made a mistake. It's actually May 21st because I went and I looked online. I was like, listen, I don't have Hulu, but I'm willing to get Hulu right now because I want to see these 10 episodes. Like, this sounds like it's going to be fun. It's going to be made for adults, so I probably can't let my kids see it. I usually watch something first and then I decide if I'm going to watch it again with my kids. But I know not a lot of parents do that anymore, but it's kind of what you have to do. Otherwise, you wind up watching the original RoboCop when you're 12 years old. That's what happens. So anyway, this they went back and they looked at his history. And not only did they make this something that blended well, that you could tell that they knew the history of this character, but his character that doesn't have a lot of history, admitted. Okay, I admit, I acknowledge that. Nothing to admit. I acknowledge that. But as Venditti took the Hawkman character and he took all of the different versions of Hawkman and found a way to connect them all, I thought that was genius on his part because no one else has done it before. Whether he says it was easy or not, careful, because that, ventures into the realm of bragging a bit. The fact of the matter is, nobody else ever thought of that before, and you deserve to take a bow for something like that. Likewise, Bloom and Oswald deserve to take a bow for this. This was really good. This was a really good series that took everything from pretty much everything from the history of this character and blended it together. I remember in episode 1 or 2, or issue 1 or 2, I think it was issue 2, where they reminisced that the original creation was MODOK with a C, not with a K. Now that's important because that only happened in one issue. Granted, it was his first appearance, but that was his first. That was just one issue that he was called MODOK with a C, and they recalled that and they put it down. For anybody who says continuity kills, wrong answer. Continuity builds upon a franchise. And it's one thing for you to make a book that people are going to look at and say, wow, this is pretty cool. It's another thing to make somebody who will say, make mine Marvel. It's another thing entirely to get somebody to say, because of this book, I'm going back and I'm ordering all this stuff from my comic book company, from my comic book store. Because when they do that, they're usually ordering from Marvel, who's putting this stuff in a second print or has a whole bunch just lying around in their warehouses or wherever the hell it is. But they're getting this stuff from Marvel. Maybe this stuff has to go to a second print. That's one of the reasons why they're saying, for all of the problems that we may have, that us comic book loyalists may have with WandaVision, and I have a couple problems with it also, but what matters is the sales. And the idea that this series was able to bring people together to say, I need more of Wanda and Vision, together, separate, whatever. I need to know more about these characters. So much so that they completely sold out at the distributor level. That means Marvel has to print new books. Oh, poor me. I have to print new books and make money? It's practically printing money, but legally. That's why it doesn't matter what our opinions are on this subject, because Marvel realizes this series got people to buy comic books to the point where we had to put out more comic books that we already had and we just had to reprint. What if a story like this is so good? A story like whatever, a story that you do, TV or otherwise, Hulu or this comic book, that gets people to say, I need to go back and I need to start finding some of these old appearances of MODOK. Now, unfortunately, they chose to pick a character that I don't think has a definitive book, like an omnibus of just MODOK appearances. But they could make one, and I would recommend people to buy it. I would probably buy it myself. It says something when you can make someone a comic book fan with a series that you do. It says, and this series could absolutely do that with anybody who reads it. It's really fun. It's really engaging. It has humor. It also has serious stuff. It has sad stuff. It's got some drama. It's got a mystery in it. Look, man, I'm going to say this again. I really don't like Patton Oswalt's personality. He's just this angry little guy who acts like he's a pissed off big guy. The big pissed off guy, the big dude, like the big freaking biker or something like that. You're like, sir, I apologize. Whatever I did that's wrong, I will rectify it. I promise you. I'll just go away from your sight if the very look of me pisses you off. Whatever, like I'm gonna leave. That's a basic human emotion. Another human response is if a little guy acts the same way, you're like, dude, shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? We all have to know ourselves. And if we don't know ourselves, then, dude gets really pissed off. And it's like, bro, you got to find a better way to resolve all these anger issues that you've got. And like you could be wrong about this, wrong about that, whatever, but like if you're the little guy with that voice going, dude, stop. Just stop. Stop embarrassing yourself. You're just saying nobody with a brain is going to take you seriously. And yes, if that needs to be an insult to certain Marvel writers or editors-in-chief or whatever, so be it. Patton Oswalt is somebody who needs to learn himself better, right? You don't act like a big tough guy if you're not a big tough guy. Newsflash, he's not a big tough guy. Likewise, dumb people shouldn't act like they're smart. It's embarrassing. That's why Einstein came up with the saying, better to remain silent and have people curious about your intelligence, your IQ and whatnot, rather than to speak and to remove all doubt, right? Like, dude, sometimes just you have to know who you are. Everybody spots a faker at some point or another. So despite the idea that I really just don't like the way it's an immediate turn. Anytime he talks, I immediately turn it off. I'm like, that it's freaking Patton Oswalt. Don't care. He was fun in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Anything else I see him in, I'm like, this just ruined the movie for me. This literally just ruined the movie for me. I was watching an episode of Burn Notice, the most recent episode of Burn Notice I was watching, and I love that show, and he was on there, and that episode turned me, I think there was a second episode with it too, it's just too much. That episode turned me off so bad that I'm just like, you know what? I'll get back to it eventually, I'm sure, because I think his character is gone now, but it's been about 2 weeks. That's how much I strongly, seriously dislike his character. I really just don't like it, whatever. And yet, with all that, I could still separate a person's work from the person. You know what I'm saying? And I acknowledge, dude, if this is the kind of stuff that Oswald can do, if he can only do it with Bloom, if he can do it solo, don't know, put it together, make it happen. I would love to see these guys do another character. They don't have to keep on humanizing every villain, because at the end of this, not much of a spoiler, but he's still a bad guy at the end of this. MODOK is still a bad guy. He's still a mechanical organism designed only for killing. That's still what he is, and he's more dangerous if the next writer chooses to do so. He's more dangerous like this. Fantastic. There was one part in here with Uru, which a quality of Uru is not that the thing will always return to the user's hand. I hate to tell you that. That's not the way that Uru works. That's something very unique to Thor's hammer, and that's because of the enchantment that Odin put upon it. It also returns to him. He can, so maybe research Uru a little bit more. But it was still a very fun moment. I can literally look at it and say, that's not how it worked, but that was still pretty cool. I dug that. I like that. That was nice. I dug on that. It was fun. That was a generally fun moment. You're going to have to read the comic book to see the part that I'm talking about. And I think that you'll have a very similar reaction. That's not really the way that works, but man, that was really freaking fun. And now I want one of those. The thing that's made out of Uru, you're going to laugh your ass off at it. It's stuff like that where you could be outside of continuity or just the basic understanding that we have all always had of these characters and the objects in the world. And yet we could forgive some things because the story was just that fun. It was just that good all around, not just fun. It was very enjoyable to read. This would be worth reading again. It really genuinely would. The rereadability of this series is fantastic. Do you need to know who MODOK is to get into this series? No. You could have never heard of him before, and I think that you'll be okay with this. And it'll actually do you the added benefit of making you want to go back and read some of this guy's older stories too. Yeah, I remember this one specific scene. I think I just posted it recently on my Facebook group, the Comic Book University Facebook group. MODOK actually says, "To me, my chair," because his hover chair. So, to me, my board. To me, my hammer. So every so often somebody would say something. To me, my Franklin Richards. To me, my Galactus. Say whatever. He's like, to me, my chair. that didn't work, but I get it. Whatever. It was in a Captain America comic book. It was fun, Yeah, this was good. Like I said, my big thing is test yourselves, guys. I would love to see these guys do something with the Super Adaptoid. That's in here, Do something with Professor Phineas Horton. Just do something, and I would love to see more. Like I said, I would love to see more from these guys. That's really all I got. I'm out. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.